Welcome to the Coffee with Cheryl podcast, the podcast for women over 50 who want to live their best life right now. Imagine having the courage to reinvent your life financially, professionally, personally, and spiritually. Join Cheryl and guests as they share practical tips and resources to inspire you to achieve the lifestyle of your dreams. So grab your favorite mug. It's time for Coffee with Cheryl.
Welcome to the Coffee with Cheryl podcast. This podcast is for women who want to live their best life right now. I am your host, Cheryl Garrison, an author, a speaker, a champion for women over 50, and I am so glad that you have joined me on this first podcast, a first of many to come. I hope you have your cup of coffee and you're ready to just chat a little bit about what it means to live your best life right now, because that is what this podcast is about. It's about championing you to take all that you have done up to this point in your life into your 50 somethings and take all of that knowledge, all of that experience, all that you have done and create your best life, not tomorrow, not 3 years from now, but today. And so today we're going to spend some time talking about what it means and some of the things that we will discuss in the next few weeks as we venture through this world of podcasting. I am so glad you joined me on this, our first episode. The one thing I want you to remember that this is casual conversation about what it means to be the vibrant, wonderful women that we are in our 50s. Sometimes we get lost along the way. And so we'll talk about some of those things. We'll have some guest speakers on. It's going to help you deal with things like health and wellness, confidence, business, anything that you're experiencing now, those issues that you are experiencing as a woman over 50, and we're going to talk about those. We're going to have our cup of coffee and just really get down to business about what it means to live our best life, not tomorrow, not 3 years from now, but today. Later on in the podcast, I'll introduce myself, but if any of you have ever heard me speak or taken any of my classes, you know I like to start with a positive quote or a story, and today is no different. Every podcast, I'm going to share something with you that's going to encourage you to keep going, keep pushing, keep reaching your dreams. So here we go with my story. Some of you have heard this one because it's one of my favorites, but I think it epitomizes what it means to be in our 50s now and how do we move forward so that we can live our best life, not tomorrow, not 3 years from now, but today. So here we go. So there was a farmer who had a decrepit farm. He let it go. His crops went bad, his animals were unfed and hungry, and he just had the most decrepit farm in the whole county. And he had a donkey who was hungry. And one day that donkey was searching for something to eat. And so he ventured out away from the house where he was near, where the farmer lived, to find some grass or some kind of vegetable that he could eat to sustain himself. And while venturing out, he fell into an abandoned well. Well, when the donkey fell in, of course, he was startled and he realized that he couldn't get out. He needed help. He needed the farmer's help. So he began to cry out. And he cried and he cried. And eventually, the lazy old farmer heard him and came searching for him and found him in the well and decided that it was much easier to just bury him alive in the well than to reach down and help get him out. So he actually went to some of his neighbors and said, "Get your shovels, I need you to come help me to cover this well." And the neighbors, being obedient, came and started with their shovels and began to get shovels full of dirt and dump it down on the donkey. Well, the donkey realized what was going on. He said, wait a minute. I think he's trying to bury me in this well. And the donkey, being a very smart donkey and a one who wanted to survive, every time they would dump a lump of dirt on him, he'd shake it off and he'd step up. And so, as each neighbor and as the farmer would dump dirt, the donkey would shake it off and step up. They kept dumping, he kept shaking and stepping up until he was able to walk out of the well. And to everyone's surprise, they thought, well, the donkey's not smart enough to survive this. But just think about it. Think of the stuff as women over 50 that we get dumped on. Layoffs in our 50s, getting our salaries cut by 60% in our 50s, having relationship goes bad in our 50s, and then we're expected to just stay in the well and be dumped on? Are you going to be that person? Or are you going to shake it off and you're going to step up? And I believe that that's you, because I know that was me. A lot of things were dumped, but I shook them off. I stepped up and I knew that there was so much more living for me to do in my 50 somethings. And so think about you. If you're in the well, if you've experienced, like some friends of mine, being laid off in your 50s, or one of my friends lost 60% of her income at 61 years old. Imagine trying to go out into the workforce and recuperate $100,000 in salary. And so, should she just lie in the well, or should she shake it off and find a way to live her best life? Not tomorrow, not 3 years from now, but today. So we're going to take time during these podcasts to give you the tools, the resources, the courage, all that you need to live that confident life after 50. Now, for some of you who don't know me, my name is Cheryl Garrison, and I am the CEO and founder of 50 Something Lifestyle, which is a resource for women who are transitioning in their lives financially, professionally, personally, and spiritually. I've developed products to help women start businesses. I am a planning and strategy specialist for those of you who have a business and haven't seen it grow and don't know how to grow it. So I create a mastermind for those women to come and learn how to build their business. I'm also a lifestyle reinvention coach to help you come up with a plan to create that new life for yourself. Now, I'm married 42 years to the love of my life, Jerome, and I have 3 adult children, and I have 3 of the greatest, wonderful, most magnificent grandchildren in the world. And of course, I'm very prejudiced. I grew up in California. I grew up with my mom and my dad and my 5 siblings, and it was one of those normal, just go get it lives that no drama, just living every day and taking care of business. And the one thing that our parents taught us is that always have a dream. And when you have that dream, do all that you can to achieve it. They wanted us to get out of that small town and go and adventure out. And we did. All of us left there. We went off to college. I started college in California and ended up coming to Arizona State University in Arizona. And I met my husband, and I've been here since the 70s, living a very full life right here. Right after college, I did what most of you did, went out and went out to the corporate world to achieve that corporate dream, that corner office. You know which one I'm talking about, the one that says management. the one that says VP, even the one that says president. I was burning up the world. I was going to be that corporate success. And I was doing it. I was moving up the ladder. I was managing a team of writers in a large corporation. And I just thought, I'm on my way. This is what I dreamed of. This is what I worked for. And one day I got called into the manager's office and I got one of those, what you call them, pink slips. And I was told my services were no longer needed. Now I was in my 30s then, but it was such a humiliating experience. And I was so devastated by it. I knew that there was no way anybody else was going to do that to me. And because I had what my husband always talked about, ability security, I had an expertise. I was a writer. I had my own skills. I began to consult and have my own business. And for 15 years, I worked from home or worked within their office with the ability to leave and take my children to school, be home with them when they were sick. I was the CEO of me and I never looked back. And I knew then that if I had that within me to do, that I would never have to think about money or think about how to earn it or think about anyone telling me when to come and when to go. I had what you call financial freedom and independence. And I was living it. And as my oldest child was heading to college, I began to feel like there had to be more. You would think I'd been satisfied, right? But I felt like there had to be more. I was looking into the screen of a computer every day, not really meeting a lot of people. I knew there had to be so much more for me. And so I ventured out to what was one of the passions that I had at the time, and that was decorating and interior design. And I invested in my own business. I invested in the training that it took. And I went from a four-figure income when I first started that business, because I didn't know what I was doing. And within a year, I was in multiple six figures. I was successful. And I thought, this is it. I found my passion. I'm here. I'm in my 50s now. This is great. Life is wonderful. And then 2008 came and our economy crashed and my business crashed and everything around me crashed. I crashed. I didn't know how to respond to that because I was on such a high of really just doing my own thing that it never occurred to me that I would have to face that time when I was in the well. Now, was I going to be buried in the well or was I going to shake it off and step up? Well, at first, I thought I was done. I was being buried. The dirt was coming, and I didn't have the energy or the knowledge or the confidence to shake it off. And I knew I couldn't do that. This can't be how it ends for me, not the person that stepped out in my early 20s and just said, I'm going to conquer the world. So I began to go back to another love of mine, and that's writing. And I began to blog, and I began to write about the experience of being in my 50-somethings and faced with the dirt that was being dumped on me in the well. And then I realized other women were experiencing it too. I can't tell you the multiple conversations that I had with women over a cup of coffee, and they were crying and telling me how did this happen? I raised my kids. I worked hard. I worked in my community. I worked in my church, and here I am. What happened? Well, if you've been there, you know what happened. Life happened. And so it's how you respond to life. It's how you're going to end up getting through it. And so the blogging led to me getting speaking engagements, and it ultimately led me to pulling myself up at Starting 50 Something Lifestyle, my current business, where I help women just like you to do what I did, step out of that well. So are you ready to step out of the well? I hope you are, because that's why I'm asking you to join me each week on these podcasts. So you can get the skills, you can get the resources and the knowledge, the courage and the confidence to step up and live your best life, not tomorrow, not 3 years from now, but today. So as I come to the end of what is going to be the most exciting first for me, I want to leave you with 4 steps that I took to reinvent my life on my way out of that well. I even wrote a book called Reinvent Yourself as I was coming through this experience. And that book was now named one of the top 8 books on reinvention for women over 50. And so I want to share with you 4 of the principles that will help you, that will start you on your way to stepping out of that well. The first one is to know yourself. Before you can do anything, before you can move forward, you have to know who you are. You have to look yourself straight in the eye and know where you are and know the authentic person looking back at you. Who are you? Be honest about it. And when you come to that assessment, think about all that you have accomplished in your life while society has told you you are no longer needed. Think about who you are. How did you get here? They can't take that away from you. So know yourself. Number 2 is to heal yourself. Forgive yourself for, I had to forgive myself for going into this depression over what had happened to me. But heal yourself. Get some daily affirmations that will help you to regain your confidence, regain the self-esteem, regain that person, get those negative roommates out of your head. But only you can do that. You can't rely on anyone else but yourself to heal you. Number 3 is to create your own action plan. Create a plan for your life. Don't just say, I want to write a book. Create a plan to write a book. Don't just say, I'm going to start a business. Create a plan to start a business. Hire a coach. Get some training. Join a franchise. Do whatever you want to do to become that business person. Don't just say, oh, I think I'm going to go back to school. Put out some applications. Apply to some schools and do it. Don't say you want to travel the world. Make some reservations. Make a plan and put some dates to that plan. Reinvent yourself through action planning. And then finally, commit yourself to completing the plan. There's one thing to have a beautiful, shiny document with all these things you want to do, all written down, all these great dates, and then you have no commitment to it. So commit yourself to reinvent yourself. So I hope those 4 little tips will help you today start to think about some things that will change your life. And then as we go through these weeks of meeting some of these guests that I'm going to have, who are going to talk about things like mindset, things like helping you to get your confidence straight, things like if you own a business, how do you become successful in that business? Things like if you are having health issues, how do you start to change who you are from a health perspective? So let's talk about those things in the next weeks to come. And I hope you will join me every morning, Monday morning at 9 a.m. for the Coffee with Cheryl podcast. Grab your favorite cup of coffee and let's chat along with some of my special friends as we go through this thing called 50 something. Thank you for joining me on this, my first podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week.